Hey everyone, this is Mr Geopolitics. I'm back from the dead. Yes, I've been away for weeks. I haven't been feeling very well lately. I've had some health issues, but now I'm back, and we're going to be today discussing the events and the latest developments in Ukraine for the last 2 weeks. So if you've missed out, this will be convenient for you as well. We're going to be doing a general sweep, going over the major events. All right, so let's look at the map, and as we can see, all these blue symbols are they're basically aerial threat alerts. That means that the Russians are likely launching missiles at these directions. Now, if you recall, what was it, like 4 months ago? The UK intelligence ministry said that the Russians were running out of missiles. Yeah, I have a feeling that's not happening. I mean, you just look at this map, and then all these red symbols represent Russian, mostly artillery strikes, but also, multiple launch rocket system strikes, the toss flamethrower strikes. They're just missile strikes, whatever. They're just all of these symbols represent explosions and Russian bombings. The blue symbols are Ukrainian bombings in the Russian-controlled territory. You can see the disparity of just how much disparity there are between the two. Interestingly, one thing I'll mention is that recently, from what I heard, because Germany gave the Ukrainians, I forget what it's called, but it's a howitzer system. It's a self-propelled howitzer system. It's called the P something 2000. And out of 15 of them, only five are still active. This was what I heard a few days ago. So only 5 are active, and it's not because they were damaged or destroyed. It's because apparently they need maintenance. That's right, they need maintenance only after being used for a few months. And that's because, according to the Germans, the Ukrainians are overusing them. They're firing more than, or close to 100 shots a day. So I don't know how many shots a day you're supposed to fire on an artillery system, but of course there's a limit. But I mean, if you can't even fire 100, if they're not able to keep up with the Russians, then that's not a good thing. Anyways, on my channel I posted footage which the Russians claim is footage of the HIMARS being destroyed. This is the second time they released footage. Again, the footage is grainy, and again, the footage does not show any impact. You can see the video on my channel. If you just go on my channel, you'll see it. But yeah, the footage, here's the thing about the footage. I believe that the Russians did destroy the HIMARS. There are droves of doubters, because there's no impact being shown, of course, right? And the footage looks blurry, it's from far away. But here's the thing, there's a channel called The New Atlas, okay? And you can go on his channel. It's a great channel. It's called The New Atlas. And I believe on the video on my channel, I posted a link to it. But he uses, he analyzes the image, compares it to the image of a HIMARS, like a blueprint version of a HIMARS. He does image analysis. The New Atlas channel, he does image analysis of that video, and he proves definitively, proves undoubtedly, that the video the Russians showed did indeed show a HIMARS truck. And that video, just from the graininess of it, just from the look of it, I could tell that it was taken from an Orlan 10 Russian drone. How could I tell? Because it's just the Orlan 10. I've seen so much footage from the Orlan 10, and it has a certain graininess to it, and it has this, and it has these crosshairs that I believe blue and or green, anyways, blue and red crosshairs that keep flashing on and off intermittently. So you can tell that it's from an Orlan 10, and the truck shown in the video is indeed a HIMARS truck. Now, here's the thing: if the Russians can track, if they were tracking the HIMARS, then they definitely destroyed it. Now, why didn't they show the impact? Well, there could be multiple reasons. Maybe they don't want to reveal exactly how they were able to do it, so the Ukrainians or the Americans can't develop countermeasures. Maybe the Orlan 10 drone, which is not the most highest quality drone out there, maybe it was running out of battery, and once the HIMARS trucks parked, it went back. They sent another one, and by the time the other one came, the missiles had already struck the target, so it only showed the aftermath. Look, I'm not a Russian fanboy. I'm just telling you, look, the video analysis proves it from the new Atlas. It was a HIMARS, and if the Russians can track it, they can destroy it. Now, some people get really jingoistic. Some people get really attached to certain weapon systems or their national pride or their army, but I try to be more impartial. And look, guys, the best army or armies that have ever existed, the greatest empires that have ever existed, they have all lost battles. They have all lost. They have all been devastated. The Romans, in their prime, they were at one point, the Persians captured one of their emperors, and they made him bow before the Persian emperor. They made him actually a footstool for the Persian emperor's horse, a footstool. Valerian, Emperor Valerian. Now, if this happened the other way around, in the West, they would be making movies like 300, and they'd be making Netflix series about it non-stop. But because it happened the other way around, it was humiliating for the Romans. We don't ever hear about it. But look, no army is invincible. No weapon system is invincible, okay? Let me tell you something. The HIMARS does not have stealth, okay, guys? The HIMARS does not have a force field. This is not Star Trek. The HIMARS is just a truck. It's a truck that's mounted with a multiple rocket / missile launching platform, right? That's all it is. It's just a truck that launches rockets and missiles. What makes it more modern or special is that its rockets and missiles are guided by GPS. So it's extraordinarily accurate. It's very accurate, in fact. But it's not by any means invincible or bulletproof or anything like that. The Abrams tank. Some people have been really hating on Russian weapons since this war started. Look, the Saudis, they've been fighting a war in Yemen for 7 years now. Now it's pretty much come to an end. They've stopped fighting, I think, now. But anyways, the Saudis, they were sending Abrams tanks into Yemen, and they lost so many Abrams tanks. I mean, just go look up on Google Images, look up Yemen destroyed Abrams tanks, okay? There are so many images of them. They lost so many that they just simply stopped sending them in, and they started sending in technicals instead. What's a technical? It's a pickup truck with a large anti-aircraft gun or machine gun mounted on the back. They did that because they realized, hey, it's a lot cheaper, right? And the Abrams were just getting annihilated, right? Because another thing, a few years ago, Turkey sent the Leopard 2, which some consider to be the best tank in the world. They sent them into battle against ISIS for Al-Bab, this village called Al-Bab. It took weeks to take Al-Bab, and dozens of Leopard 2s were destroyed, and they were torn to pieces. They weren't just destroyed, they were torn to shreds. Some people say, oh, it doesn't have the latest, those Leopard 2s don't have the latest upgrade package. Guys, some of these Leopard 2s had their turrets blown off. I don't think, I mean, it might have helped, but some of them were destroyed by mines. So, I mean, it wouldn't have made a difference because, see, tanks, according to the textbook, a tank is, you expect it to take collision from the front, and it has mostly protection on the sides and the front. Most tanks, including the Abrams, they don't have that much protection from behind. And, they all have, every tank has a vulnerable spot. And, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, they were able to just destroy those Abrams tanks at will. And ISIS in Syria, they destroyed dozens of the Leopard 2 tanks, okay? They destroyed them with mines and IEDs, RPGs. It's just a matter of hitting the right spot. Every tank has a vulnerability where the ammo is stored. You hit that area, and it's not going to make a difference. Because some tanks they have the ammo stored all in the same place, and then newer, more modern tanks like the Abrams, what they do is they have this sliding door where you open the door, you take out the ammo from the ammo racks, and the door closes by itself, and that's supposed to protect you. It's a piece of 2-inch metal sheet that's supposed to make all the difference and protect you between guys, come on, let's be serious. If where that ammo is stored, if it gets hit, that tank is going sky high, and if not, it's getting destroyed by a mine or IED. And even MRAPs, which are meant to be resistant to MRAPs are designed to be resistant to mines and IED specifically, but I've seen MRAPs, the larger variant of the MRAP. There's a video on YouTube which shows the Taliban blowing an American MRAP in Afghanistan, and there's just, I mean, yes, the MRAPs can sustain damage from an IED, but they're designed to sustain damage from an average IED. But in this case, in this video, I wish I could show you the video, but this MRAP flies upside down and lands on its head. It gets basically torn to pieces because, no weapon is invincible. Anyways, we're going to move on from that. When it comes to Iran, the Americans have doubled down. They're saying that, yes, the Iranians are training the Russians on their drones. The Iranians have sold the Russians hundreds of drones. Here's just some pictures. The Iranian drone program. Now, some people wonder, why is Russia buying drones from Iran? Well, the Russians really, especially after Nagorno-Karabakh, they really neglected putting money into their drone program. I mean, they have some decent models. They have the Orion, which can even launch rockets at other flying objects. They have the Orlan 10, although the quality of the images is not the best, but it does the job. But here's the thing: out of all the drones they have that that Hunter drone, which they haven't mass produced yet. But anyways, it's a flying wing drone, which can also drop. It could drop precision guided munitions on targets. But anyways, they never. The only drone that the Russians really mass produced is the Orlan 10, which is a basic reconnaissance drone. That's all it is. Okay, that's all it is, and it's about $100,000 for a package, which is 3 to 5 drones and a control station. Anyways, the Iranians, a decade or so ago, the US, especially under Obama, began sending a lot of drones into Iranian airspace to spy on them. And the Iranians captured a bunch of them. And now the Iranians have the largest collection of captured American drones in the world. This is an image of the Iranians inspecting an RQ-170 drone. The RQ-170, when the Iranians captured it, they hacked it and made it crash land in Iran. It was called the Beast of Kandahar or something. Apparently this was the same drone that flew over Osama bin Laden's house. But anyways, when the Iranians captured this was a big deal, because this was one of the most advanced, if not the most advanced drone in the world at the time. This is one of those weapons like the F-22, which the US would not, and I think to this day is not willing to even sell to its closest, most trusted partners. Like, they won't even give this to Israel. So anyways, the Iranians, just to give you an idea of how resourceful and constructive they are, they're very resourceful. They took that drone and they made a full size version of it, and they made a 60% size version and I think a 40% size version. This is the Shahed 191, I believe. It's I believe the smallest version, and it comes in it can do reconnaissance. I believe there's a version that's just for reconnaissance. It has stealth features, and it also using pickup trucks. Actually, it has a system where it can be launched with the pickup trucks just off a regular highway runway, which is pretty creative, very resourceful and creative. And you can see here from underneath how basically it can drop precision guided munitions onto targets. So allegedly, the Russians have bought a lot of these. The Americans are doubling down, saying the Russians have bought hundreds of Iranian drones. So apparently they bought these, and they've also bought this, which is the Shahed 129, which is one of the Iran's more advanced drones. It's one of the Iran's more premier drones. Damn, I forget the range and everything, but it has a pretty decent range, and I believe it can carry four precision guided missiles on each munitions on each side for a total of 8, I believe, normally. Anyways, these are the drones that the Americans are claiming the Russians have bought, but in a contested airspace, because Ukraine is a contested airspace. Now, how is Ukraine still a contested airspace? Well, the Ukrainians have a lot of air defense systems from the Soviet era. They likely modernized them after 2014 when Russia took Crimea, and they have intelligence from NATO. How does NATO attain this intelligence? Mostly using AWACS planes like this, where there's a radar basically attached to the plane. It's called a command and control, or AWACS plane. And these planes, they have a range of, their radar has a range of about 270 kilometers or 300 kilometers. So what the Americans, or let's say the British, will do is they'll fly, outside the borders of Ukraine. So they won't fly into Ukrainian territory and risk getting shot down. But let's say they'll come into international waters here, just off Odessa, and then their radar can extend like this. This is about like this, right? And then from Poland they can go right on the border and extend like this, right? Obviously not from Belarus, but anyways, you get the idea. They're providing intelligence for the Ukrainians, and that gives the Ukrainians an advantage, because the Ukrainians then they don't have to have their radar systems turned on all the time, and they can just hide their systems and bring them out when there's a plane, a Russian plane in their airspace. And the Russian planes, I mean, they have it hard in Ukraine because the Ukraine actually, I don't know if NATO trained them to do this or not, but they also have they have an entire team of spotters on the ground, and these spotters are armed with man pads. And man pads are basically imagine an anti-tank weapon, anti-tank guided ATGM. Imagine that, but it shoots down low flying objects like helicopters or planes that are flying low. Now, planes typically fly low because planes want to avoid radar. When you fly low, you avoid the radar because you're sticking to the ground. But if you fly low, the Russians are risking being shot down by something like the American Stinger manpad. All right, I'll show you an image right here. Just give me a second. So yeah, they fly low. They'll be shot down by something like this, right? And let me just do this here for you. Ah, damn, it's so small. Yeah, so it'll get shot down if it flies low. If it flies high, the spotters can still report in. So with the combination of the Ukrainians, with the combination of their own spotters on the ground that are armed with these man pads, and with the combination of intelligence from NATO countries, they are essentially able to turn off the radar from their own surface-to-air missile systems, their own anti-aircraft systems, and that makes them hard to find. I mean, they could be hiding in a barn, they could be hiding in a bunker, they could be hiding in, they could be hiding anywhere, and then they'll come out as soon as they have the intelligence. And a lot of these systems, they're mobile. They'll come out, they'll turn on within a few minutes. Like the S-300, within a few minutes, it's ready. It launches multiple missiles at the plane. Before you know it, these missiles are flying at supersonic speeds. And some of these systems, their missiles can actually, after a certain point, track the target by themselves. So then the anti-aircraft battery can just turn itself off and go into hiding again. So this can all happen within a few minutes. So that's why the airspace in Ukraine is contested. But anyways, my point is the airspace in Ukraine is contested, and in a contested airspace, I don't recommend high-end drones. We all saw how it ended for the Turkish Bayraktar. At first, when the Russians were starting off and they were fighting along a 1,400 kilometer front, right? And when they were a little overstretched, and when they started off, they were getting picked off by the Bayraktars, right? Right? They were fighting on a 800 mile or 1,400 kilometer front, which is really unheard of. I mean, the last time that happened was World War II, when the Nazis attacked the Soviets, and they had millions of men, like 2.5 million or something, whereas the Russians sent in 150 to 200,000. But anyways, at first, the Bayraktar TB2 gave the Russians some trouble, but then they figured it out. They adapted to it, and then it became pretty much useless, and it just became an expensive toy that's just mostly put away in the closet. And I think I don't think these really expensive drones or high-end drones are appropriate for contested airspaces, because unlike a jet, they can't maneuver, they can't dispense flares, they can't go as fast as a jet. I mean, some of them have stealth features, but still. Anyways, what I would personally recommend for the Russians would be, especially if they're buying hundreds of drones, would be this one. It's a very basic and primitive drone. Here's all the features of it, the cruise speed, whatever. It's very primitive, but Iran recently signed a deal with Tajikistan to mass produce them. And it comes in two versions: reconnaissance, and it's also a suicide kamikaze loitering munition. So it's primitive, it's cheap, but it gets the job done. The Houthis in Yemen, this is what they've used to wreak havoc in Saudi Arabia. A few years ago, they attacked an Aramco plant. This was the end result. They used these type of drones, right? They have a variant they call the Gossef 2K. It's the same thing though, and you see how precisely they hit the Aramco oil facility, and Saudi Arabia lost half of their oil reserves in one shot. That's probably like tens of, if not hundreds of billions of dollars worth. Okay, so I mean, that's one drone I would recommend for the Russians, for not only for reconnaissance but to saturate the airspace. And another drone I would recommend if they want something that can drop precision guided munitions and come back to base would be this drone, which Iran exported to Ethiopia recently, and it actually helped turn the tide. The rebels were outside the Ethiopian capital. The Ethiopians started buying drones from everyone they could: China, Iran, Turkey, everyone. And this is one of the drones that helped turn the tide. It basically started devastating the enemy, and then now the Ethiopians are outside the enemy capital. But anyways, yeah, this is obviously this is a cheaper variant of this drone. It has, I mean, you just look at the size. This drone can carry less of a payload, has less range, but in a contested airspace where drones are likely to get shot down anyways, it's perfect. Anyways, let's get back to some recent occurrences in Ukraine. Okay, let's forget about all that. Let's move on. So, the HIMARS. Yeah, what I didn't mention about the HIMARS is that the Russians have also released images. I believe in my previous videos I showed images of HIMARS rockets being shot down. I mean, the HIMARS is not some super like Death Star super weapon. Its rockets have been shot down. Images have been published. It's just that the Ukrainians are really sneaky with it, and they use the HIMARS, and it's mobile, and it's very precise, and they use it, and then they go into hiding right away, and they use it at the same time as they use the other systems they have, like Soviet era systems, or basically makeshift. They have these pickup trucks which they've bought from various NATO countries, and they've basically put tubes on the back and made makeshift makeshift grad systems like that. So basically they launch artillery grads, HIMARS at the same time, and I mean, no system is perfect, right? I mean, look what these cheap Iranian drones, which are only worth probably a couple $1,000s each or tens of $1,000s each, did to the Saudis, right? They cost Saudis billions. While at this site at Aramco was protected by 6 Patriot anti-aircraft batteries. The Patriot is actually the most, I believe it's the most common American air defense system they have, and that site had 6 of them protecting the site at Abqaiq, and some of those the Patriot batteries were actually the PAC-3, the latest variant. But hey, they failed. They got the Iranians saturated the airspace, and that's it, right? I mean, think about it. You've got, let's say, 6 missiles to defend a site. The enemy sends 8 missiles to hit your site. Well, it's just a matter of math, right? It's just a numbers game. 2 of those missiles will likely hit the target, if not more, right? But the thing is, with the Russians buying these Iranian drones, I think it's a smart move. Why? Because I think it's a smart move because consider the following scenario. So imagine that the Ukrainians have a site that they're protecting with 8 missiles, right? They have an they have an air defense system with 8 missiles, okay? They were defending the site. Now the Russians, let's say they just launch 8 missiles at the site. While the Ukrainians, under normal circumstances, they would use all 8 missiles to try to shoot down those 8 missiles, right? But knowing that the Russians have drones, these Iranian drones, suicide drones or whatever, then the Ukrainians are kind of in the conundrum. They're kind of stuck in limbo because they're like, okay, should we use all these 8 missiles to shoot down the incoming missiles, or should we use 4 of them and save another 4 for the drones? And that creates an advantage for the attacker, which is the Russians, which is why it's better to attack a site with, if you're going to attack a site, use artillery, use rockets, missiles, and drones. If you really want to hit a site, if it's really vital to you, then that's how you do it. But yeah, having Iranian drones is definitely going to help the Russians. I just think they should go for the cheaper variants. I just think they're more appropriate for contested airspace rather than something like this. Although the stealth features from this, I'm interested to see how well that will work. Anyways, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about Seversk, because a few weeks ago, the Russians were claiming, the LPR authorities, actually, Luhansk People's Republic, they were claiming that they had captured Verkho-Kamyanske and that they were on the outskirts of Seversk. Now they seem to be right back where they started. Well, what happened? What happened is that all of a sudden we got reports that the Ukrainians were attacking their flanks. They were attacking them from this town, which is called Novoselivka, and all of a sudden we heard that the Ukrainians were attacking Verkho-Kamyanske. So the Ukrainians were essentially trying to cut off the Russians and leave the force that was on the outskirts of Seversk stranded. So essentially, the Russians got the impression that it was a trap, and some people even say that the Ukrainians started withdrawing their forces to lure the Russians in, and their plan was that they had artillery somewhere nearby, in a town nearby, one of these towns, and they were going to lure them in and then rain down artillery on them and destroy them. So I think the Russians had a second thought about that and decided to just fall back and advance more gradually, right? Because you never really want to if your forces are much stronger, fine, but you never really want to have a lump sticking out like this, too overextended. The more overextended it is, the more vulnerable it is to being cut off and then being encircled. So I think what the Russians are trying to do is advance in one line, right? They want to advance like something like this, right? They would rather advance like something like this, right? As opposed to right? They want to do that, and then they want to, and then go into the town like this, and then, you know, and maybe then they can have a ball sticking out like this. But they don't want to. The Russians definitely don't want to be the ones to be encircled. The Russians want to do the encircling, right? So, anyways, today there was a report from the governor, or I guess former governor of the Luhansk region, because the Ukrainians don't control Luhansk anymore. He said that the Ukrainians had liberated Spirne. Now, Spirne, the Russians have been saying for quite a while that they control it. It's possible that it's changed hands a few times, but anyways, he said that they've taken control of Spirne, and then they've taken control of Bilohorivka, which is right here. But the thing is with Bilohorivka is that there's actually two of them, and the other one is right here, as you can see. So, and this one was never in Russian hands, so it's, or maybe they took it for a certain amount of time. I don't know. It's really confusing. I'm really confused because, I mean, what's going on? Which Bilohorivka are they talking about, right? Anyways, moving on to that. Zelensky, let's talk about Zelensky and his million-man army. The Ukrainians, Zelensky has been saying that they were going to launch an offensive to take back their territory in June. They were going to mobilize and do that. Then it became July. Now it's mid-August. And they said that they were going to take back Kherson. And, you know, if you're going to do something like that, why would you tell the enemy? I said this in my other video, but why the hell would you tell the enemy you have a million-man army and you want to take back Kherson? Look what the Russians are doing now. They're pounding the living crap out of the Ukrainians here. Each one of these symbols represents potentially dozens of Ukrainians being annihilated, being killed. These are human beings being torn to pieces potentially, and most likely with this many symbols. I can guarantee some of them are hitting their targets. So, look, why? I don't know why. Why he said it. Now, maybe he said it because it was a ruse. Now, if it was a ruse to divert attention or Russian forces away from the Donbass, this area which they also want to liberate, this area, pretty much. If it was a ruse, then great. But here's the thing: when you're a politician and you're trying to be like a strong man, a defender type of guy, like you're trying to portray that image like Zelensky, who won't compromise, he won't negotiate with Russia, he's going to liberate Crimea. Well, when you try to portray that kind of image, you make a statement and then you don't live up to it. That doesn't look good. Okay? Not only that, but here's the thing: if the Russians realize that it was all a guise, it was all just BS, what they can do is they can always just send back troops back to, you know, they have a land bridge, so they can just send back their troops easily back to, you know, the Donetsk area, where Kramatorsk and Bakhmut, Soledar are. Now, they don't even have to do it all at once. I mean, I don't know how many troops they sent to Kherson to reinforce the lines, but let's say they sent like 10,000 or something. They could start sending 2,000 troops back at a time, right? So maybe this week 2,000, next week another 2,000, next week another 2,000. Maybe they'll just keep 4,000 here. And oh yes, today I heard from Kadyrov, the leader of the Chechen Republic, allied with Russia, part of Russia. He said that he is sending an additional 20,000 extremely well-trained elite troops into the fray. So those 20,000 troops, The Russians already have a few thousand extra troops here, right? Kherson. Now, if Kadyrov sends 20,000 troops, if the Russians, imagine if they send all those 20,000 troops here, they'll pretty much they might be able to turn the tables, and they might be able to actually go for Mykolaiv and reach the enclave of Transnistria, which is officially part of Moldova, but it's a Russian breakaway enclave. They broke away from Moldova and declared an independence, and they want to be part of Russia really badly. They're really nostalgic towards the Soviet Union and Russia. Their flag has the hammer and sickle on it, and I mean, if the Russians can just, if they have 20,000 or 30,000 now additional troops, they can go through Mykolaiv. If they can just reach Transnistria, guess what? Guess what they've done? They have now cut. It won't be an easy job, but they have now cut off Odessa. Odessa. They've cut off Odessa, so they don't even need to attack Odessa. Odessa will be cut off, and there are something like 4,000 to 6,000 Russian peacekeeping troops in Transnistria. So once they reach this area, they'll have an additional 6,000 or at least a couple thousand troops to throw into the fray. And they don't even have to do a thing. They just surround Odessa and wait it out. Simple as that. And just start pounding away. And they basically, sooner or later, will win, right? So this whole million-man army BS might turn into a disaster for Zelensky, actually. Anyways, moving on to some other issues. Okay, so let's look at the map. Not much has changed since the Russians took Severodonetsk, and then a week later they took Lysychansk. Since then, not much has changed. I mean, they claim to control Spirne. They are fighting towards Seversk, but I think what has happened is that they've decided to go for the other option, because I mean, Soledar and Bakhmut, these are going to be two hard nuts to crack. But the Russians have already made inroads into Soledar. Some Russian sources are saying they've already taken Bakhmutske, and they're already in the outskirts of Soledar. This map shows already that they are indeed on the outskirts, but they might be deeper in there, right? But and Bakhmut, as you can see, they are in the outskirts of Bakhmut. Now let me show you why perhaps the Russians are not focusing on Seversk, and why they're focusing on Bakhmut and Soledar. Because let's say they take Bakhmut and Soledar eventually. So they take Bakhmut, right, and then they take Soledar. And then what does that mean? Well, that means that they have access to the M103. The M103 is the highway, this red highway you see, that connects all of the Donetsk area, including Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, and all these little towns, to each other. I mean, going this route from here to here to here to here to here, I mean, that's a very long route. But essentially, if the Russians can get onto this highway, take control of Bakhmut and Soledar, then they can expand, right? They can expand, right, like this, maybe. And then what starts happening? Well, this will begin to turn into an encirclement, another encirclement, and then the Ukrainians will have no choice but to leave Seversk, right? So, I think the Russians have decided that, hey, forget about Seversk. It's really heavily entrenched and enforced. let's just now go for the hardest nuts to crack, Bakhmut and Soledar. And doing that, after we do that, let's just try to pull the old move again. The old dog with the old tricks. Just try to completely surround the Ukrainians again, encircle them again, right? So, and you can imagine once the Ukrainians are encircled, then the Russians can go from here to here to here to here, and let me show you what they can do. Okay, so let's say the Russians take Bakhmut, and they take Soledar, and then they start expanding onto this highway, and then eventually, let's say the Russians from here start coming downwards towards them, and then Seversk will have to be abandoned without a fight. And then what else? And what's the next option? The next option is Chasiv Yar, which a few weeks ago I recall Russia struck Chasiv Yar and killed hundreds, was it a couple hundred Ukrainian soldiers who were sleeping at a I believe it was like a school. The Ukrainians claimed it was a civilian building, but the Russians claimed that it was empty, and then Ukrainian soldiers began lodging there, and that's why they struck it. But anyways, they can go for Chasiv Yar, right, in that direction, and then they can go in this direction, this direction, this direction, and then all of a sudden what happens is they are now on the outskirts of Kramatorsk. Then from this direction, if they cut off this main highway, which connects Sloviansk to the rest of Ukraine, right, Sloviansk from this road, right, is connected to, basically Kharkiv, a city of 1.5 million, and the rest of Ukraine. But if they cut that off, they cut off that highway, right, then Sloviansk is in a precarious situation. And then if they connect from here to here, basically it's encirclement all over again. So I think this is what the Russians are planning, but hey, I don't know, I'm not psychic, but that's what it seems like they're planning on doing. And right now it is the middle of April, August. What am I thinking? It's the middle of August. September, in the beginning of September, starts raining usually. Gets cold, but you can still fight in September. When October comes around, it's pretty much going to be the start of winter. So the Russians have a month and a half, pretty much, to soften up the Ukrainian positions and try to take as much territory as they can. But this war might drag into a winter war, I have a feeling, and it might even drag into next year. In any case, if we go up here, the Russians have managed to take this area here, where the town of Udi is located. So they've taken approximately this territory. Some say more. Some say they've taken this much territory all the way to the border, right? So like that. So I think the Russians, because Kharkiv is just so close to the border, it's just so tempting, they want to eventually they just want to surround the city. They just want to surround and encircle the city, right, from multiple directions, and they just want to. They did, and if Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine, if Kharkiv falls, right? If Kharkiv falls, or if Kharkiv is surrounded, and the Russians play the same trick where they create humanitarian corridors and all the civilians leave, and then that leaves the soldiers there where they can just annihilate. If Kharkiv, the second largest city with 1.5 million people, because Kiev is the capital with 3 million people, but if Kharkiv is surrounded, I mean, damn, man, that is a very, I don't know, they could fight on after that. If the Russians can surround Odessa and then Kharkiv, what are the war's basically over, whether Zelensky wants to keep talking every night as he does or not, whether no matter what the public opinion is in Ukraine. The Russians already control 20% of Ukrainian territory. All the industrial areas were here. I saw a video recently. Darn, I wish I could show you. It's on the R and U channel on YouTube. It's called R and, the symbol and? The symbol and is Shift 7. So R Shift 7 U channel. You can see Mariupol. They're making extraordinary progress rebuilding it. They're actually putting time and money into rebuilding it. So they've taken that area. They've made inroads into Bakhmut and Soledar. Recently, I should say this, the Ukrainians struck a Wagner base in Popasna because a journalist came and took pictures, and those pictures revealed exactly where the base was. They geolocated it, and apparently some Wagner troops were killed. So now the Russians are looking to exact revenge for that strike. But that's the thing with war. There's always you always want to keep everything hush hush. You don't want your enemies to know where your bases are, right? Recently, the Russians, they destroyed 2 Ukrainian helicopters, which were on the helicopter pads somewhere like around here in Ukraine, in the middle of Ukraine. Also today, what happened is the Ukrainians, they successfully shot down a Ka-52 helicopter. This is the third Russian helicopter in 2 days. But the Ukrainians have also lost a lot of aircraft recently, according to the Russians. A lot of helicopters, aircraft, and anyways, this helicopter, before it was destroyed, apparently it accomplished its mission, and it was on the way back, and then it was hit by a manpad. I showed you a picture of a manpad earlier. But anyways, well, that's one thing to discuss. Another main thing to discuss is the power plant at Zaporizhia. Why is it not showing it anymore? They were showing a red dot for where. Oh, here, it's right here. So this nuclear power plant in the Zaporizhia region is the largest in Ukraine, and Russia currently controls it. And Russia, this power plant provides 20% of all the electricity for the surrounding area. I don't know how wide of a area. I don't know if it's up to 200 kilometers diameter, 300 kilometers, but this nuclear power plant provides 20% of Ukraine's energy. It's vital to Ukraine, okay? And now the Russians, what they're doing is they are cutting off this power plant. They're cutting off this power plant from Ukrainian territory and diverting the power to the territory which they control. And the Ukrainians actually produce so much energy from this power plant that they sell the excess electricity to Europe. So losing this power plant, control over it, would be devastating. And recently there have been bombings launched at this nuclear power plant, and luckily it's a Soviet-era built power plant, and the Soviet-era built nuclear power plants were built like monster fortresses. Literally, they were designed so that if a commercial airplane fell from 10 kilometers in the sky and hit the power plant directly, that it could sustain it. So they're basically like, it's like a fortress, but there are other sites where sensitive nuclear materials are stored, like the depleted uranium. There's an area where that's stored. I think the Russians have beefed up their air defenses now, and they're trying to fortify the area, maybe move the depleted uranium out of this area. But the Ukrainians and the Western media are claiming that it's Russia that's actually bombing this nuclear power plant. But I'm sorry, but I'm not naive. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to believe that. There is no way that the Russians, with such an asset under their belt, are going to bomb their own nuclear power plant. And here's the thing though, the Ukrainians are playing with fire, because if this nuclear power plant were to go sky high, I mean, depending on where the winds blow the nuclear matter, this could hurt the Ukrainians just as much as the Russian controlled areas. In fact, if let's say this nuclear power plant goes sky high and the winds blow in northerly directions, then Kryvyi Rih and Zaporizhia, Kryvyi Rih is the hometown of Zelensky, oh no, and Zaporizhia would be at risk, right? The ex-president of Russia, Dmitry Medvedev, he came out and he basically implied that if the Ukrainians were to destroy the nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia, that the Russians would retaliate and would destroy Ukrainian nuclear power plants in the west of the country. So, and the IAEA has actually demanded that they gain access to this power plant, and many countries are demanding that Russia should hand back the power plant to Ukraine, but no, that's not happening. That is not going to happen, okay? The Russians are going to keep it, fortify it, divert the power to themselves. I mean, that's part of the spoils of war, and that's just what it is. In other news, the EU, out of desperation, are now coming up with a plan to cut off Russian tourists from Europe. So they're going to punish Russians, not let them in as tourists into Europe. I'm sorry, but this is just the dumbest plan, and it's very petty in my mind, because a lot of Russian civilians might actually be against the war. Some of them might be pro-Western. Some of them, once being exposed to the West, might become pro-Western. Every year they bring in tens of billions, at least tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars worth of funds and tourist money into Europe. So now guess what? The Europeans, they're basically shooting themselves in the foot, because where's that money going to go? Well, it's going to stay in Russia. It's going to go to Turkey, maybe Iran, maybe Kazakhstan. Maybe they'll visit China. Maybe they'll visit India. I mean, trade between India and Russia has surged by 500% since the start of the war. So, I mean, I don't know. I think this is the Europeans just doing this out of desperation. But, I mean, that is what it is. It's petty, but And as far as the nuclear power plant is concerned, honestly, something has to be done, because the Americans, they have their AWACS systems. They know who's firing what at who. And look, guys, if I were the president of the United States, if I were the president of France, I would call Zelensky and be like, listen, if you shoot at this power plant one more time, we're going to cut off aid to you. Maybe not officially, we're not going to proclaim it, but we're not going to send you one more bullet if you fire anything at this nuclear power plant, because this has serious ramifications, man. This could be a humanitarian catastrophe much worse than Chernobyl. This is the biggest nuclear power plant in Ukraine, one of the biggest in Europe. So, I mean, this has to stop. This has to stop, okay? Other than that, the Ukrainians, they recently struck an airbase deep in Crimea called Saki. So this is the airbase right here. And some people say that dozens of planes were destroyed and like dozens of Russians were killed. This is the airbase right here. This is Saki, that's the city or whatever, the airbase here. Some say that dozens of planes were destroyed, but I believe, according to satellite imagery, 6 planes were destroyed or damaged. The Russians are claiming that no personnel were killed. But, for the Ukrainians to shoot this deep into Russian-held territory, they must have received some kind of long-range system, because they must have. I mean, the closest they could have done it from would have been from here, right? Somewhere like here, and that would put it at. Is that about right? Yeah, that's about right. That would put it around over 200 kilometers, over like 130 miles approximately. So, the HIMARS, the missiles that the Americans have given the Ukrainians, allegedly they don't have the capability, but the Ukrainians are claiming that they used their own missile system, which is made possible because, in the Soviet era they had access to those systems, so they possibly did that themselves. It's just like the sinking of the Moskva. If you recall the sinking of the Moskva, the Ukrainians claim they did it with their own anti-ship, the Neptune anti-ship missile system. But then others came out and started saying that some analysts came out and started saying that no, it was actually the UK Harpoon system which did it. In any case, it was done with Western intelligence. But this is a bit alarming for the Russians because they for a long time thought that certain areas were out of reach, but now they have to maybe beef up their air defenses in those areas. So the Ukrainians are just trying to pressure them. Recently, they also damaged some of the bridges in Kherson area. They damaged the railway in Kherson area. Of course, the Russians have pontoon bridges. They have more access to equipment like that than the Ukrainians do, and bridges can be usually, unless they're completely annihilated, they can be repaired, reinforced, strengthened. So we'll see, but the Ukrainians are definitely trying to put pressure on the Russians, as you would expect. But other than that, so some analysts are claiming that the Russians control this area right here, right outside Volodar, the town of Volodar. So some Russian analysts are saying that. there's a lot of right now. There's a lot of back and forth and confusion about who controls what. So, Marinka, the Russians are claiming they took Marinka. They claim they control this area, like something like this. Of course, the situation is fluid. Pisky, the Russians have also taken control of it. Pisky, why that's important is because the Ukrainians, after Crimea 2014, they had 7 years to prepare. And Avdiivka is one of the most fortified, hardest nuts to crack that the Ukrainians have. Why? Because it's absolutely surrounded by fortified trenches, networks of underground bunkers, and then there's streams around, and it's a very highly fortified town. And from this town, they're bombing Russian-controlled territory. They're bombing the city of Donetsk. Some civilian areas have been hit. So now there's pressure on the Russians to push the Ukrainians out of the fire control zone. Now they've taken Pisky, and if you look up north, all the other towns are not even towns. Look at this. Is that a town? Looks more like a truck stop to me. Like this, Vodian, right? Like, so if the Russians can push up from Pisky, right? If they can do this. Oh well, actually, no, I'll show you like this. Oh boy. Okay. Okay. So if the Russians can take some of these towns up here, right, and if they can do something like this, push up there, and then push up here like this. If they can do that, then they will be essentially 2 miles away from, even according to this pro-Ukrainian map, they will be 2 miles away from basically encircling the Ukrainians. So if the Russians, and yes, the Ukrainians are going to fight hard for this, but if the Russians can successfully, gradually, even if it takes a month or two, move up and reach this position, Avdiivka will have to be abandoned without a fight. So I think that's what they might be planning for Avdiivka. Other than that, what else is there to talk about? Let's see. Yeah, some Russian analysts control that. They say that this area of Bakhmut is also under Russian control, and that the Russians are much deeper in than this map shows. But yeah, other than that, guys, we've gone over a lot for today. If you've listened till the end, thanks. Thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate it, and I'm honored. And yeah, I will be doing more frequent updates now that my health has improved. And yeah, thanks for being with me. Make sure to like and subscribe, because that really helps me out. It takes time to make these videos, so please like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you a thing. You can always change your mind later. Like and subscribe, share with your friends, and thank you for being with me. Goodbye. Have a nice day.